Sorry for that beginning introduction. I am talking today about the recent incident that happened between a French woman and her being duped of $800,000 due to a romance scam. So, Brad Pitt rep warns fans after a scammer defrauds this woman out of $850,000. That's right, you got it. Oh my goodness, it sounds unbelievable, but it does happen. Romance scams take place all the time. And the thing is, there is a method these cons have when it comes to identifying, people that are vulnerable. And I had the opportunity to speak with Anthony Bradcanis. Just to give you some background, Anthony is a doctor of psychology. He wrote a book called The Science of Social Influence, Advances in Future Progress. And he also wrote another book it was 2001 published, The Age of Propaganda, the everyday use and abuse of persuasion. And he was speaking at an online dating summit where there were, online dating site owners and operators and founders and service providers. And there were, matchmakers and dating coaches from all over the world. This is run by Mark Brooks. He is the publisher of Online Personal Watch. And they were talking about fraud and how to identify fraud or online dating fraud. So this happens more often than you know. And this woman, of course, who was recently, I mean, it's more than catfished. She was literally duped of $850,000, her essential life savings. Um, Interesting story about this woman and how she acquired that money was that it came from her real life divorce from a real life millionaire. So let's break down the story. Anne, who is a 53-year-old French interior designer, fell victim to an elaborate online scam involving an individual who was impersonating actor Brad Pitt. This deception actually began in February of 2023. So it's 18 months. And when Anne received Anne's original message, her outrage was from someone claiming to be Brad Pitt's mother. And her mom was stating that my son needs a woman like you. Now, this initial contact led to daily communications with the supposed Brad Pitt, let's just call him the fake Brad Pitt, who used AI generated images and messages to build this romantic relationship with Anne for over 18 months, guys. Now, during this period, this imposter convinced Anne to transfer approximately 830,000 euro, which is around $850,000, citing urgent needs such as medical treatment for kidney cancer and issues because he couldn't access his fund or pay for his treatment because supposedly his dragged out difficult divorce from Angelina Jolie. Now, the scammer employed AI generated photos and videos from the hospital bed. And when they were published and released on various news outlets, there were people that were mocking her, saying that doesn't even look like Brad Pitt. Like, come on. He was writing messages from her bed. I love you, Anne. You're my baby. I mean, the love bombing was so prevalent. And when you are someone like myself who's been in the dating industry since 1992, I have talked to so many singles. I've heard from so many people who are coming to see me as a professional now looking for an authentic relationship because they've been scammed. And sometimes it's the tune of several thousand, few $1,000s to several $1,000s. And in this case, almost $1 million that she got scammed. This, This is the challenge with AI today. AI can be so helpful. And in this particular case, it can also be so deceptive and so disruptive, especially when there's deep fakes. And, if you watch the Mark Zuckerberg video of his deep fake, you would, I mean, it's hard to tell. Do you know that there are influencers, AI generated influencers on Instagram and on social media sites and on YouTube that are raking millions of dollars and they're not real? People are investing and paying AI generated personalities and people and girlfriends and boyfriends and whatever. And so it's not that ridiculous to for someone to be scammed and for someone to be um, duped, deceived, uh, conned, tricked, whatever words, whatever synonyms come to mind. And Anne's ordeals mirror other incidents that happened. And this is happening all over the world, everywhere. Scammers exploit individuals by posing. There are other scammers that also did this. And in September 2024, Spanish police arrested 5 individuals who defrauded 2 women out of €325,000, which is approximately $362,000, by convincing them they were in a romantic relationship with the actor. And rather than pretending he had cancer and doing deep fakes, they were investing in projects that he was part of. Because for those who do know Brad Pitt and follow him, he is entrepreneurial and there's the vineyard with his ex-wife. There's business deals. We have many celebrities like The Rock, who has Terramana, his tequila line, and we have so many celebrities that invest in launch their makeup brands, their footwear, their shapewear, their makeup line, their fragrance line. Like, so these women thought that they were co-partnering with Brad Pitt, that they were romantically involved with in fictitious projects. They weren't real. He wasn't real. In response to these scams, Brad Pitt's representatives actually spoke out and said, do not use social media or respond to social media, particularly when the actors don't have social media accounts. So Brad Pitt, the real Brad Pitt, is not on social media. He doesn't have any official account on TikTok, on Instagram, or YouTube. So, his team empathizes with, the deception that happened. Now, as shocking as it is, but not entirely surprising, I know for some people they think, oh my God, like she deserves it. People are mean. Nobody deserves to have their heart broken and to be duped and to like, does she take responsibility and is she accountable? And at the end of the day, before you consider giving that much money, I would consider, even if I gave somebody a grand, I was conned out of $15,000 from a Toronto gentleman who I thought was a friend of mine. His name is Cassius Denizen, Mr. Kaizen, who was around at the time, my go-to custom tailor, who literally asked me to lend him $15,000 so that he can create suits for Don Ellis, executives of Don Ellis, and that within 30 days or 60 days, he would have all of these executive suits made. I would make $6,000 for lending him $15,000 so he can get the materials to make these custom suits, because that's what he did. He had a storefront in Yorkville. He dressed like he was a millionaire. I knew he wasn't a millionaire. I thought he did well. I thought he did well. And after I gave him that $15,000, didn't he throw a penthouse party for his birthday at the Thompson Hotel, invited me, invited a bunch of other Toronto people and influencers and whoever was there, and he probably used my money, because guess what? He never paid me back. He didn't pay me back on time. And out of the $15,000 to which I had to chase him for that money, and I discovered that he supposedly put my money that I lent him into a condo. I got back $6,000 and it was a long time and it was in small pieces. And even to this day, he owes me 9,000 plus interest or whatever the case it is. So that's Mr. Kaizen, Cassius Denizen, who goes around in Toronto. I don't know what he's doing. I heard that he's involved in so many other frauds. I was small fries. Okay. Apparently owes a landlord $40,000 or $50,000 or whatever. That's the last thing that I heard. But guess what? I wasn't emotionally vulnerable. I didn't think I was stupid. But basically, he's a sophisticated scammer. When I actually Googled him afterwards, he was already reported on the ripoff report. Did I think for 1 second that this person that I knew as a friend, as a colleague, as a tailor, as a custom men's tailor with a storefront in Yorkville, that he's a con artist? Hell no. I had no idea. And so, if a woman who's an interior designer in France who was led to believe, and by the way, there's intricate lies. They make intricate lies. And what Dr. Prankanis said about why people get duped and whatnot is because people prey on on certain psychological weaknesses and psychological, profiles of individuals. And there's this celebrity stardom and this affinity to celebrities that we think, we just, they call it the halo effect, right? It's cognitive biases. So victims often exhibit cognitive biases like the halo effect, where they overlook negative traits of the perpetrator due to their perceived positive attributes. And I want to go back to, I want to try and find the quote of where he said was a real crime. And he said, yes, the core crime, the weapon of that's used in a fraud crime is influence. And we don't see that when we're on the outside. We haven't weaseled into her life. And the other thing that he said was a pattern is that they typically make small requests and then they make it a habit. They do one small ask and then they do another ask. And then it's a bigger ask until you're asking for the $800,000, which she so willingly gave. The other reason why there's a psychological factor that contributes to a victim's inability to recognize manipulation is that there are real emotional needs. All right. It, during this 18-month period, she did get divorced from her real life millionaire husband at the time, now ex-husband. And guess where the $800,000 came from? It came from her settlement. And guess where it is? She doesn't have it anymore. So this $800,000 that came from her marital divorce settlement from a real life millionaire went to a scammer, the fake Brad Pitt. Romance fraud targets individuals with unmet emotional needs, such as a desire for companionship, love, or validation. The fraudster exploits these vulnerabilities by presenting themselves as the perfect partner. And I'm sorry, it's not Brad Pitt for many women out there. A 53-year-old woman who's got an unhappy marriage, supposedly, because she went through a divorce. Is Brad Pitt not the knight in shining armor? He's cute. He's a millionaire. He's talented. He's well known. He's well dressed. He's sharp. Like, she must have had butterflies in her. It was probably the most blissful 18 months of her life until it wasn't. Okay. Until it wasn't. There's this gradual escalation of commitment, and fraudsters use a process of small incremental requests to build trust and commitment over time. And this makes it so much harder for victims to even realize that they're doing this and that they're going through this. And, you know, then they end up crossing ethical boundaries. They're doing all this stuff and and they're giving all these things and they develop this trust and the love bombing exists. And what's more important is that usually there's a form of isolation and dependency Fraudsters often work to isolate victims from their support networks, and often saying, "Don't say anything. This is secret." You probably say, "I don't want anybody to know that I'm dealing with cancer. My mom reached out to you because she knows she needs somebody who's not a celebrity, who understands and loves me for me, and not because I'm Brad Pitt." Okay. Um, Normalization of deception. Through constant gaslighting and justifications, the fraudster can make the victim believe that deception is a normal part of relationships, reducing their ability to actually realize and recognize the manipulation. So, this perfect, in Anne's case, the perfect combination of her emotional needs, her lack of awareness, the cognitive dissonance of thinking, "Oh, it's Brad Pitt. He could do no wrong. I believe him." Um, the lack of critical thinking, the lack of awareness is what all contributed to the fact that she is now, you know, an emotional wreck, dealing with severe depression and embarrassment. Yeah, and so let's continue with how someone can be a victim, and how these kinds of scams happen frequently, often in the millions. The fraud stirs people who are involved in romance scams, whether victim or the person who's taking the money. It's in the millions. I think a bank manager that I spoke to once, when there was an over $10,000, every time there's an over $10,000 um, transaction in the matchmaking industry, because it is, high ticket, it's investment. I'm dealing with, high level individuals that are making a serious investment into their love life. They will check in and say, "Do you know this person? Have you met this person? There's romance scams. Are you sure you want to accept that money? Are you sure you want to transfer that money?" Because it's high alert, right? Because it happens all the time and all too often. So we should exercise. For those of you who are, making fun of this lady, or thinking like it couldn't happen to you, or it couldn't happen to your mom, or to your friend, or to your sister, or to an acquaintance. It can happen. It has happened. It is happening right now. Today, someone's getting scammed. So emotional vulnerability is one of the big um, reasons that this can happen to someone. Loneliness, desire for connection. Scammers prey on individuals who feel unloved, isolated, or are actively seeking meaningful relationships. That's why there's so many dating scams and online dating scams, because people are there literally looking for a life partner. So it's also a way to attract these crazy these people. And by the way, I'm certainly not a fear mongerer, and I'm not sharing this to say you should, that online dating doesn't work, or that all, solicitations are false, or that you should never, try to be online. No, this is about being aware, and also being the kind of person where you don't need somebody to validate you, where you're not swept off your feet so easily, or that you believe somebody when they come in hot and heavy and they're love bombing. And that to me is a red flag, a glaring red flag. Okay. If you've never had attention like that before, and you're all of a sudden getting it, I get it. It must feel foreign. It must feel, pardon me, it must feel nice. It's different. It is different. You're just like, you're all about it. You want it, you miss it, you crave it. But and then you add the celebrity allure, the celebrity factor, raising the bar even more. If you are a Beyonce fan, or a a John Legend fan, or The Rock, or I don't know, Brad Pitt himself, or Nicolas Cage, or whoever your fantasy person is. Many people fantasize about being connected to someone famous. And so when you believe that someone famous, and your famous person is single, available, or somehow connected to it, for me it's Justin Bieber. I mean, I'm a Canadian. Love all his songs, love him. Hey, Justin. I know he's married, but I'm a big fan of Justin's work. If it was like, "Oh, hey, I'm a matchmaker. Justin wants to be on your podcast. I get a lot of fake invites to be featured on podcasts and for celebrities to come on my podcast. And I always look at the email, right? Is it come from a gmail.com or yahoo.com or some hotmail.com? Like, no, I'm not going to get an official invite from somebody's team to be on the Lewis House podcast or Diary of a CEO when it comes from angel123 at gmail.com. Like, please. Okay. Clearly, other people are getting these invites and they're getting scammed. When it first started happening and I was getting these podcast requests, I'm like, oh my God, I'm being noticed and they want me on this podcast. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's a scam. I wish it were true, but it's not true. All right, sophisticated scamming techniques with technology and AI being so fast and being so just, huge. This is something that absolutely does happen. There's psychological manipulation. They psychologically manipulate you through trust building, through love bombing, through gaslighting once they already have you. Urgency tactics. Now that they've got your trust, it's always some fire that has to happen, and you're the only one that can help them. The lack of awareness, the naivety, being naive. I can't even say the word. Scam ignorance. Victims don't even recognize the red flags of online scams. How would you know? I didn't recognize I should have asked for a contract. When I got scammed, let me see the purchase order. Who's the director? Let me talk to the person that you're making the suits for, because that's a significant amount of money. $15,000 for me at the time. That was, I don't care. I get that. That's like a crazy vacation. That's a great vacation for me and the kids that I could not go to because this person ripped me off. Okay. It's certainly not $850,000. I can't even imagine. The psychology of belief, again, the cognitive dissonance is even when the evidence contradicts the scammer's claims and it's there and it's glaring and it's in your face. Victims may rationalize these inconsistencies because they actually want to believe that the relationship is real. They want to believe it's real. It's kind of like the TikTok Tisa Risa story, or is it Risa Tisa? But she did a 47 part TikTok about, and it's who the F did I marry? This was, I mean, she's been on every talk show and everything because she was raw and real explicit and talked about how she married a scammer who lied about everything. She was sleeping with the enemy. This is a man she like that lied to her at biggest betrayal ever. So, and she's a normal person, a trusting person we want to believe. And guess what? He came in hot and heavy too. Was the perfect gentleman, paid for everything, did everything. If you watched, um, gosh, The Tinder Swindler, scary, real. It's true. It happens. Social engineering. I just recently watched another Netflix documentary about a woman who was catfished and romance scam, and I can't even tell you the punchline, but it was devastating. And she was in a fake relationship for 10 years, fabricated. And her perpetrator created even a fake entourage. Scammers will sometimes involve assistants, other perpetrators, friends to make the setup more credible. They'll even have conversations. She made several fake um, Facebook accounts that were all connected to each other. So you could see the friends list. Every person on that friends list was a fake person. Insane. The level of deception. So it can be very, very challenging. Again, this doesn't happen to everybody, but we have to be aware of these things. And this is why Anne went to the public to say that. But what did she get? She got a whole lot of shit thrown back at her and made her feel even worse. A lot of bullying, making her feel stupid and solidifying, maybe her own inner self worth or lack thereof to say that she was, um, really taken advantage of. That's got a hit in the gut. Um, and so if that's the case, moving on to how do you deal with that? How did I deal with that? How does anyone deal with the level of deception at this level, which is so like gut wrenching? It's like you're having your dark night moment, right? It's difficult. You have to seek professional help. So I will strongly advise you seek professional help. Journal your thoughts. Accept your humanity. Accept the fact that your scam doesn't define you. Your lack of awareness doesn't define you. So many intelligent, successful, trusting people get scammed. And sometimes we do our due diligence or we think we do. And we don't follow our gut instinct at times, right? You definitely have to focus on mental health by joining support groups, practicing that self compassion, and limiting the exposure to negativity. If social media is the thing that is hurting you, hindering you, and not helping you, you definitely want to reframe, take a break, detox, figure out why you're on the platform, how you want to use it, reclaim your narrative, rewrite your story. With so many people losing everything in the LA fires, it gives really people that perspective. And this woman, she hasn't lost her house didn't burn down. Her clothes aren't burnt to a crisp. Her maybe she still has a car. I don't know her situation. I mean, financially it's very devastating, but she isn't homeless. She her whole community is still standing. She's not a victim of a fire. She's not a victim of a head-on car collision. I mean, there's worse things that could happen. Maybe it doesn't feel like that for her, but you know, taking back and reclaiming and starting over is the best thing you can do in a situation like this, because guess what? The perpetrators, they're not giving a second thought to you. And so even though they took your money, don't allow them to take your dignity and your future and to rob you of your present happiness. You definitely want to build a support system. Lean on trusted friends and family. Lean on your therapist. Lean on, um, you know, maybe platforms like this, people who are on your side, people who have the empathy, who do know that. You want to handle online trolls strategically. Don't engage with them. Block, you know, and you can take legal recourse. If there's bullying, harassment, you can fight back. People aren't allowed. I mean, harassment's harassment, right? And they can come in a digital form. So you just want to be sure that um, I want people to be aware of those precautions. I would love your thoughts. Um, this is my first ASMR dating and relationship video. I hope that you did enjoy it, and I would love to know whether you prefer the whisper or if you like the low auditory sound. Why this is a fun project for me is because I normally have a very loud voice, and for me to whisper or for me to do this is really different, right? It's not really something that I do, but I'm going to commit to doing at least one video a week this way. And if you have a request or you want me to talk about certain dating advice or give affirmations or PSAs and talk about red flags, green flags, whatever it is that you want to talk about, let's do it. I'm going to sign off, and it was a joy to be with you. If you are single and you want to be part of my Elite Singles Network, you can go to www.carmeliaray.com. You can see my Instagram, TikTok, um, Facebook. I'm on all those platforms. You can email me and call me. Well, text me. It's all of my information is out there. But don't scam me, please. Don't waste my time because I'm educated and you can't get me. But that's not a threat. That is not a dare either. Signing off on a Friday night. Thank you all for joining me. And